with you, rant at you about a little bit, if I may, and that is 900,000 dead people, which is, by the way, a vast undercount. The number of people who died in our war in Afghanistan, in George W. Bush's war in Afghanistan and George W. Bush's war in Iraq. Both wars that Bush and Cheney lied us into. $8 trillion looted from the United States by these two wars, by the defense contractors involved with them, and right at the front of that line, Dick Cheney's company, Halliburton. When Dick Cheney was running Halliburton, back when he had been, George W. Bush had asked him to help him find somebody as his vice presidential nominee, because Dick Cheney had been chief of staff to Jerry Ford, as I recall, and he knew his way. And in fact, he'd been defense secretary for somebody. I think it was Jerry Ford also. He knew his way around the White House, and he'd been a member of Congress for years and years. So Bush asked Cheney, who should I get for VP? Well, Cheney at that time was running Halliburton, and he had made this big bet that the government was going to bail out the companies that had been selling asbestos for years and years. And Dresser Industries had a huge asbestos liability. My dad was suing Dresser Industries because he got mesothelioma from asbestos. And so Dresser Industries was for sale for pennies on the dollar. And so Cheney had Halliburton buy them, thinking that the federal government would bail them out. And the federal bailout never happened. And so all of a sudden, Dresser Industries is like in a whole world of hurt, which means Halliburton's in a whole world of hurt. Halliburton is looking at the possibility of going bankrupt. So Cheney says to Bush, make me the vice president. And then, as vice president, it's like, hey, let's have a war right away. And let's give one of the very first no-bid multi-billion-dollar contracts to Halliburton. $8 trillion looted from the United States. We could have had single-payer health care. We could have educated every kid in America who wants to go to trade school or college for free. We could have provided years of health care. We could have cut the cost of drugs in half. We could have ended homelessness in the United States. $8 trillion looted from us. Because these two men wanted to get reelected and lied us into a war to do it. It's about $8,000 per man, woman, and child in America. Are you happy with the way that your money was spent? I'm not. I am, shall we say, dissatisfied. And I was just so pleased to see Joe Biden, President Biden yesterday, just tell the truth. Jerry Ford never said a word. Lawrence O'Donnell's actually been doing a really good job. He's the only person I've seen who's talking about this story. That he went back and he looked at all the film footage, of Jerry Ford's presidency. Jerry Ford, of course, ended our involvement in Vietnam, and about 2 years later, the government fell, but he got us out of Vietnam. He never gave a speech. He never said, I did the right thing. He never rationalized it. He never, and I hurt him badly, politically. And I think Biden is doing this right. He's saying, we made a mistake. This war should have ended at least 10 years ago. He's not going as far as I am. The war never should have started. But, hey, you got to do what you got to do when you're in politics, I suppose. But he's saying, this war should have ended a decade ago.